Whether you are a believer or a full-blown skeptic, haunted locations are bone-chilling places that can freak out even the most scientifically minded of people. Many people from all over the world have had many run-ins with the supernatural and paranormal. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at 3 haunted locations and the events which have occurred there. London's Haunted Underground. London is an incredibly old city with a rich history and countless numbers of ghost sightings. The Underground especially is a frequent hotspot for the paranormal, so much so that they even made haunted tube maps of all the spooky sightings. Covent Garden Station has been haunted for over a century. Since it first opened, people have been seeing a tall figure wearing a top hat, gloves, and a cloak or coat. It is believed to be the deceased William Terrace, an actor who was attacked and lost his life in 1897 relatively nearby the station. This ghost-like figure is apparently so unnerving that multiple staff of the London Underground have requested transfers to avoid him. Bethnal Green Station was used as a shelter during the World War II air raids. In 1943, there was an alarm test drill which many thought was a real attack. They swarmed the station and 173 people ended up passing away from the stampede. Most of the deceased were women and children. It is said that screams can be heard at the station despite there being no one around. Supernatural occurrences have been seen near the ground of Elephant and Castle Station. While waiting on empty platforms, commuters have heard running footsteps and odd tapping sounds, as well as seeing doors flung open and slammed shut. There have been many reports of a young girl boarding the Bakerloo line but never seen exiting. The drivers at this station have even claimed to see the girl board their train themselves, further adding to the myth of this mystery ghost. Aldgate Station sits on top of what used to be a burial pit for those who passed away of the plague. This burial site is the cause of many ghost sightings within the station. It even has its own ghost logbook to keep track of them all. The most well-known ghost sighting is that of an elderly woman seen helping an injured man. A worker apparently fell onto the live electrical rail from a considerable height and was injured. Thankfully, he survived, but witnesses claimed that they saw a ghost-like figure stroking him while he laid there. She was quickly dubbed as the Elderly Angel of Aldgate, and is quite a famous phenomenon. There have even been sightings of ghost trains on the London Underground. In 1928, in the South Kensington Underground station, a commuter was waiting alone on the platform for the last train to pull in. A certain train pulled in with a whistle and passed through the tunnels. Clinging to the side of the train was a ghost-like figure clad in a coat and peaked hat. Apparently, the witness's description of it matched none of the existing and operating trains. There have been multiple sightings of this ghost train over the years, with the most recent one being in 2013. The London Underground has been serving the city for more than 150 years. It has been built on graves, suffered through wars, and has had many accidents occur upon its grounds. It's no wonder there are hundreds of ghost stories and sightings. Dragsholm Castle. While this palace-turned-hotel is only 800 years old, it has pretty much cemented its reputation as Europe's most haunted castle. There are supposedly hundreds of ghosts that roam the halls, having passed away at various times in the fortress's history. After withstanding the Danish Civil War of the 1530s, the property became a prison for nobles. Later, during the rise of Lutheranism, there were many religious prisoners. Even a former owner of the castle was among them. But most notable was James Hepburn. He was the 3rd husband to Mary Queen of Scots, a troublesome noble and one of the 3 most famous ghosts of this location. History does not look kindly on him, as he kidnapped and very likely attacked Mary before forcing her hand in marriage. In an attempt to flee his past, which included dashing off with a former fiance's dowry and his rumoured involvement in the attack of Mary's previous husband, he was forced to land his ship in Norway due to a catastrophic storm. He was then arrested for not being able to provide the necessary documentation and was subsequently sent to Dragsholm, where he was kept in inhumane conditions. Barely given any rations, he was chained to a pillar which he supposedly walked around until he bore a circular indentation into the floor, the evidence of which can still be seen today. It is said that he went mad and his soul never left the grounds. The restless ghost is apparently known to be heard riding a horse-drawn carriage throughout the courtyard. However, according to a tourist site, the hooves heard by many customers must be something paranormal, as there have not been horses on the site for years. There are 2 more ghosts over which reports frequently arise, one being a maiden who was once perhaps the daughter of an owner of the castle. She fell in love with a commoner who worked the grounds. As a member of the noble class, this was not accepted, particularly by her father, who, in a rage, locked her into a prison and even bricked her up into the wall. She is known as the White Lady. The stories are corroborated by the discovery of a female skeleton, dressed all in white, found inside the wall. The final ghost, the Grey Lady. She is said to do random and supernatural acts of kindness as a thank you to the former master of the house, who treated a painful toothache when she supposedly worked in the castle. The disappearance of Erin Marie Gilbert. Unfortunately, not all who get lost are found. This was the case with Erin Marie Gilbert, a 24-year-old girl who disappeared after leaving a first date on July 1st, 1995. Erin, who would now be about 49 years old, was 5'5", 145 pounds, with brown hair and hazel eyes. It was her sister Stephanie who first reported that Erin had gone missing after a night out on what was supposed to be a date at the Girdwood Forest Fair. Erin had moved from San Francisco, where she lived with her father, to Alaska, where she stayed with her sister Stephanie and her husband and 2 children. By the time that she went missing, she had been living with them for about a year. The night of Erin Marie Gilbert's disappearance, she was picked up by a young man by the name of David Combs, a man whom she'd met at a bar just a few nights before. When he came to pick her up, he was wearing sunglasses, a detail that Stephanie later recalled when speaking to officers and reporters. Before the 2 of them left, Stephanie's older son, who was 4 years old, suggested that his aunt Erin take a cell phone with her. However, Erin decided not to and left with David Combs. Erin and her date drove an hour to the Girdwood Forest Fair. Witnesses recalled seeing them at a beer garden until around 6 p.m. when they left together. David Combs, who was later interrogated about Erin's disappearance, told the rest of the story, that when the 2 walked to his car, it turned out that it was not starting. He left Erin with the car, telling her he would walk to a friend's house to find help. After 2 hours of walking, however, he did not find the house and returned to his car alone, with Erin gone. David Combs told authorities that he thought she had just gone back to the fair. When he tried the car this time, it worked, and he then decided to go back and search for Erin until around 1 a.m. However, he did not call Stephanie about it until 7 a.m., which was odd. Although Stephanie said that she would not have heard if Erin had come home at all due to the nature of the house, she checked her bedroom and found there was no evidence of her having returned. Police and investigators continued to search for her, as did the family. They went back to the fair to search for her, but nothing was found. Now, over 2 decades later, there is still no new information regarding Erin Marie Gilbert's disappearance. Although the family is no longer convinced that she may still be alive, they are still searching for answers.